Director of the Sound Art Program and the Chair of Visual Arts. And this is getting recorded on Zoom, and it will also be available on the web. So there'll be other people who can access the information and the conversations that we've had. So just so you know that that's happening. And I know it's a little early, so thank you so much for coming. There is, after this, there will be coffee and some nourishment at 11 o'clock. So please stay for that. And then, of course, there's Open Studios, which is from 2 to 5. And we'll talk more about that event as well. So it is a long day. So thank you. I would like to introduce first Julie, who is the Dean of Admissions and Financial Aid. And we'll be having more questions from her. Seth Cluett, who's the director of the Computer Music Center and also assistant director of the Sound Art Program, and we'll be hearing more from him. And we have two students. We're really fortunate to have two students with us, Miles Scharf and Alec Green, and you can see Miles' work in Open Studios later today from 2 to 5. And it's a great opportunity. You can speak with them, specifically from a student's perspective of what their work is like, what the program's been like. So that's a really great opportunity. Okay, so we will talk in terms of some of the history of the Sound Art Program. We are really proud of the program and really excited. It's going to be the 11th year, and it's also the 60th anniversary that's coming up for the Visual Arts Program as well. The Sound Art Program has a rich and important history with the Columbia Princeton Electronic Music Center, and which houses the first, we'll hear more about this, of course, the first programmable electronic synthesizer from 1958. And it takes up the entire wall of my office. It's really momentous. It should be in a museum. But in a way, it's a really great emblem and structure that, symbolizes the history that we have in sound, in electronic music, both internationally and in New York City. And we are the only sound art program in New York City. And we feel that has a certain importance because being a program in New York City, we can have adjunct faculty, and we can have mentors. We have visiting artists, curators from MoMA, from the Whitney, mentors who are important established artists and have a long history and careers in New York City and internationally. And so it's an incredibly great place to work as a faculty person and also to be a student, because it's probably one of the richest culturally, intellectually places to live in the world. That being said, we are a small program, the Sound Art Program. We usually admit between 3 and 4 students a year, and it's a total of 6 students cohort because it's a 2-year program. So we are able to be selective, and our students have really different backgrounds and really different art practices. So while students come into the program as sound as the primary discipline, once students are in the program and admitted, they can take classes in sculpture, they can take classes in painting and photography and printmaking and all of the disciplines here, as well as taking advantage of the amazing research institution that Columbia University is in Barnard. And so taking classes, as a student here, you'd be able to take classes in philosophy or acoustics or architecture, and with the instructor's permission, of course, but it offers a really well-rounded, philosophically grounded practice, I think, that is possible in an MFA program in a university situation that might not exist in an art school that's just purely an art school. And this is also important because after you graduate here from our program, often people change over the course of the 40 years of their life later, and you might want to go into other fields, and having this background at Columbia University gives you a kind of versatility in the humanities that also might not be experienced in an art school. So That being said, I'm just going to go talk briefly about some of our programs. We have requirements, which we try to keep to a minimum because we want to give you the most time to have in your studio practice. So we have some of our group critiques and exhibitions include the library show, and this year it's going to be at the Prentice Cinematography Studio. In past years, we've had joint programs with the DMA students here, and that has been at Issue Project Room, and every year is slightly different. And there's also a student-run group show in the summertime, and then, of course, first-year show and thesis show that's here that I'm sure some of you probably have attended in years past. And it's a beautiful state-of-the-art gallery. Let's see, and I just flew back actually less than 12 hours ago from the School of the Art Institute of Chicago, where I did a talk, an artist talk, and did a couple of days of artist visits. So I just have so that was like less than 12 hours ago. It was like crazy. Okay, so our mentor program, we have Mentor Week once a week for each semester.
1 week a semester.
Oh, sorry.
1 week a semester.
1 week a semester. Thank you.
Yeah.
And recent mentors have included Marina Rosenfeld, and at that time asked the students to perform in the reconstructed instruments of Rousselot and the Futurists. Phil Niblock and Catherine Liberskaya have also been previous mentors, and our mentor this fall is James Hoff. So in the mentor program, it's very interesting because you get excused from all of your classes, and it's a time to have an ongoing discussion from day to day with the mentor, with someone who is in a different place in their practice. And they're able to take you to places in New York City or in the vicinity of places that have been important for them in their research, in their practice, and talk about their work in a really deep way and understand what it means to be an artist and what it means to be an artist today, 2004, in New York, and perhaps they will take you to galleries or museums and places that are interesting and possibly introduce you to members of their community of other artists, curators perhaps, and different programmers. And it's a way, or going to shows, going to see programmed shows at the different things that are going on in New York City. And so it's 1 week of having this very personal and intimate experience of being with a mentor. And we hope that it's not just a one-time thing, but it goes on the course of a bonding experience with other people in your cohort and also the mentor. And it's a really important part of the program because there'll be no other time in your life when you can really experience that special time with another artist and a small group of other fellow artists to experience art life and everything that entails. Let's see, I don't want to go on too long because there's so many things to talk about. So in terms of, I hope, are you all going to be going to Open Studios from 2 to 5? Hands? What? No, come on. Wait, what's going on? That's an amazing time because Miles can talk about it a little bit later, but all the students will be showing their studios literally open. You can go in, you can see what the students are doing, you can talk to them about their process and their methodology, and it's really amazing. So what are you guys doing this afternoon? So you guys, come on, change your plans up, because after this you can go up to at 11 o'clock to the
8th floor. It's the Lantern. So you just take the elevator up to 8.
And there's going to be coffee, there's going to be food for you, and also there'll be the presentation of visual arts, and then you can hang out a little bit, and then I just really encourage you to go to the Open Studios.
At 1 p.m. there's also a tour with the Visual Art Department that you can take.
Yeah, totally. So please change your plans, come on. Okay, as mentioned earlier, we are a joint program in some respects with the Computer Music Center, of which Seth is the director. And he'll be talking about that. We share physical space with them. We share faculty. We share a lot of, the students are often being able to work on the same things, and so it's a really nice kind of camaraderie that can exist. We are interdisciplinary in that sense and encourage collaborations with other people in the university or even in the visual arts program. It's something that you could initiate on your own, and we really encourage that. Let's see, we care a lot about the artistic quality, and so that's something that that is important, and it is a thread throughout the program where, really creating a rich experience and thinking about how your work is evolving with the different studio visits that come in, different kinds of arts professionals that come in that can have one-on-one studio visits with you that take place a number of times, almost every other week or so throughout the semester. And some of our previous invited visiting artists to do studio visits with the sound artists have included Raven Chacon, John Driscoll, who of course worked with David Tudor and who I studied with briefly at Knowles College, Nina Katadurian, Anea Lockwood, Aurel Satz, Phil Niblock, Stefan Vitiello, David Behrman, and Hildegard Westerkamp are just a few of our recent visiting artists. And then this year, he's not with us on the panel, but he's teaching critical issues, and that's being taught by Kabir Carter. So just in terms of, we will talk about the application process as well, and we will be doing that a little bit later, but just a word about the application process is that we have a policy that aren't able to perform an evaluation of your work beforehand. So we don't, if you send us something to comment on, we're not able to do that before the application comes in. But in the meantime, I would just say that just to not try to second guess the application process and just send your best work. And there's a number of us, including Seth, myself, and 2 other people who do the evaluation process. And it's competitive, and we really try to have a really different kind of interesting and cohort. So it's and I know that there are questions about financial aid. So maybe while we have Julie here, we're going to jump to questions specifically about financial aid, and then we'll go to our questions directly to our students, and then we'll talk about the sound art facilities.
You have to go.
Okay, thank you, Mia. And good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone on Zoom. Thank you guys so much for being here. We appreciate it. I know it's cold and a little early. Maybe old too, but so I am Julie Dobrow. I'm the Dean of Admissions and Financial Aid at the School of the Arts. I'm also a proud alum of the Theater Management and Producing concentration. So I've been around SOA for a long time, and I've worked here since 2008. So I think I'm going on my 17th year. It's a pretty special place, I have to say. Just a couple of things I wanted to tell you. First, I wanted to make sure you know the names of the admissions and financial aid staff. If you choose to apply, and we hope you do, we are the people who are ready to assist you in any way, answer questions about admissions, about the application, about financial aid, etc. I'm sorry. I saw. Quieter?
Slow down.
Oh, slow down. Got it. Sorry, I'm a very fast talker. New Jersey girl. Okay, so yes, so the staff, the admissions and financial aid staff consist of me, Kenny Wong, who is our director of admissions and financial aid. He is here running things everywhere. And then the 2 women that checked you in downstairs, Tori Sheffer and Niquette Johnson. So we're a small team, but we are a very active and willing team to assist in any way that we can. So if you reach out to the office, most likely you will be speaking to one of us. Just want to make sure that you have the dates in the back of your minds. The application is due on January 14th. That is a hard deadline. It's 11:59 p.m. that night. If there's some kind of emergency that comes up, please reach out to us, but otherwise we ask you to respect that so that the committee has enough time to review the applications. The applications for financial aid. So anyone can apply for financial aid, whether you're a domestic student or international. Everyone is eligible. Financial aid is determined by a combination of need and merit. And so if you want to be considered, then you need to submit the financial aid applications. If you're a domestic student or a permanent resident, that would be both the FAFSA, which you're probably familiar with for undergraduate, that's for federal aid. And then we have our own, what we call the School of the Arts financial aid application. If you're an international student, you only need to submit the second one, which is the School of the Arts financial aid application. That is due on February 4th. Please, please, please know that applying for financial aid does not in any way affect your chances of getting in. The admissions committee has nothing to do with the financial aid process. That's all handled through our office. So please don't hesitate. If you need the support, then please file an application. Let's see. To that end, we're actually going to have a Zoom session specifically on applying for financial aid and the financial aid structure of the school. That's going to be held on December 18th at 7 p.m. We'll send information out about that. And just a few pieces of information about the program and just the application process. So last year we normally have between 45 and 55 applications for 3 spots. So that the selectivity rate is about 13%. And 100% of incoming students received scholarship support this past year with an average award of $29,000 per year. So that's kind of the world that we're living in. Do you have any questions specifically about admissions and financial aid before we turn it over to the students and to Seth? I'm going to be around all day, so if there's any questions that come up later, please just flag me. Let me just see if there's any questions online. It doesn't seem like there is about financial aid. So, oh, yes? How much is tuition? So this year it's $74,712, I think. It is not cheap. New York is not a cheap city for sure. We meet with you one-on-one in the financial aid office to help you figure out how to finance your education here. So, and as I said, if you need scholarship support, please apply.
To that end, I just want to add that there are opportunities once you're an admitted student, in addition to the scholarships that are offered, as teachers' assistants. And I think, Seth, you can speak to that.
Yeah, there are a couple of things that don't show up in the process of the application that might be useful to know as you're sort of factoring how the finance side of this goes. Every student is guaranteed a teaching assistantship in the second year. We're very proactive about what the teaching assistantship means, where it's not just doing work for the professor. We actually have you teach a class, we observe you, we give you comments, so it's getting you ready if you are going into academia or going to be a visiting artist, giving other people critique. It's an opportunity to hone your skills. There are service positions throughout the university, but throughout the School of the Arts in particular, that are very sensitive to people's schedules and time. They pay an average of $25 an hour for a maximum of 20 hours a week. And they could be anything from being an usher here at Lenfest Center to being a media fellow helping do publicity, which is actually a nice parallel job to have outside of academia after you get out in order to bolster your art income. In addition to that, the Computer Music Center has committed to, if you are eligible for federal college work study, we will hire you, period, end of story, for the maximum amount. And we are 100% flexible with your schedule. So, and what we like to do is give people a title that is something that would bolster their CV. So Miles, I think right now is studio manager or he has some title that is, that's meant to help both lend weight to the curriculum vitae after you graduate, but also ensure that you have an understanding source of income in the process. And the last thing that I'll say is there's an incredible network of apartment shares and university vetted landlords and things, and then also graduate student housing. So those things are things that sometimes you forget to think about as you're going through the financial aid process. And as a first-gen college student, I know that I didn't always have the people around me to kind of answer those questions. So happy to field those if they come up.
Thanks, Seth. And we'll continue, Julie. Did you have other comments?
You want questions? Let's see. So I only have one so far. It says, I hold a bachelor's degree in industrial art. I majored in ceramics. Can I apply with my degree?
Are you in the house? Are you hot? I didn't just. Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
Good, sorry.
Any degree welcome. Any degree is welcome. And we have students. I mean, it's very often for us to have a student with a art school background coming in wanting to pivot towards sound. We have people coming from a music school background wanting to pivot over. We've got some people with a music technology and physics degree from an engineering school. We've got people coming in from theater who started with sound design but moved over. It can be anything, and that's totally welcome and encouraged.
That's it for questions for now. Why don't we continue?
Okay.
I'm sure
So
they'll
we're
just-
going to
with
start
Al.
with Miles.
That's okay. Yeah.
Oh, you want to start without? Do you have to go?
Oh, it's okay. We're all right. I just
Okay, great. So I'll let you introduce yourself, Miles, and we're going to have a second year and a first year speak now, and then you're welcome to ask the students questions. So.
And Miles, please speak into the microphone.
Hi, everyone. My name's Miles. I'm a second year. Do I talk about like what I do or where I
just
come
like
from?
a minute for talk about your work a little bit, and then people can have questions.
I make like listening devices for like electromagnetic waves from like, which is obviously like what a radio receiver is, but it's like they're non. They don't choose. It's just like whatever's in the air. And I do this based off of some experiences that people have had hearing the radio through like the objects in their home. And I'm trying to, figure out what those people might have heard. And all of this is trying to think about how to confront invisible systems.
And what has it been like to be in the program?
Yeah, the program has been amazing. It was definitely a leap, but it's really intense, that's for sure. But I think I've like my practice and me has changed forever. And I think the program like really asks you to confront yourself and like figure out like how your skills and your practice like are contextualized like yes, like in the art world or whatever, but like also like what they're doing for other people, like how people engage with them. And yeah, I think like you get a new visiting person every single week. You have to explain yourself to them. You have to like build a relationship with them like in that moment. And like I think at the start you're sort of like trying to like process like what you're doing in relation to them, but like I think like as time goes on you sort of realize that you're just like a part of a very like sort of spread out small very niche community that like somehow like all convenes inside of this building like every so often, and that's also like a very beautiful thing. I think I'll ramble if I'll keep speaking, but I'll stop there.
Can I have a question? I have a question. How would you say? I'm not a student, but how would you say it's been for you? Like, if you think about being at Columbia as opposed to being at a school that's just an art school. Like some of the schools are just art schools.
I never went to art school, so I'm not. Maybe Alec would be better at answering this question. But I mean, like I've been able to take like engineering classes and like like graduate level architecture classes in like addition to the sound and visual arts curriculum. You can sort of like really curate your own practice, and you're not really like. There's like maybe a couple required things that like the cohort needs to be together for, but like you can really sort of treat it as like 2 years of research in that regard.
Cool.
I have another question, which is, this sound art is such a small group of students compared to like all the painters, for example. What's been your experience in terms of interacting with all of the other disciplines, which can be really different? Printmaking, photography. How is that,
Yeah. I mean, like, like the output can be very different, but I think like the people that you'll connect with are the people that you're like thinking in a similar conceptual space. and you can like you don't have like formal critiques with them or anything, but like this semester the students in like who all work with sculpture started like their own private crit group, and we meet on Fridays, and we talk to each other and we drink drinks, and it's great.
Cool.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of cool things that can be student initiated and student run. So while there's the program, there's also a whole lot of space to create and initiate things as students. Any questions for Miles? Yeah.
Let's talk about your background before you came here, and then go into what your goals were coming into the program and how that may or may not have changed where you are right now and how you're seeing the future after.
Great question.
Um,
I'm gonna move this over
yeah.
ergonomically.
Yeah. Thanks, Mia. I studied physics and music technology as like a dual degree in Pittsburgh before I came here, and then after I graduated, I was working in this like spatial audio motion tracking lab, and I came to start making work through like using technology to make work. So I was like finding validity in how complicated things were. So I thought that if I went to the sound art program, I would learn like lots of other really complicated things and be able to make whatever I want, which was sort of true. But I definitely like kind of what I was saying at the beginning. Like I learned a lot more about like like what makes something effective, what makes a piece effective. Yeah, I think it's just really just that. I think that's been really invaluable, honestly.
We should introduce Alex and then make sure we get questions to both of them.
Exactly. I just wanted to have one comment, which is people come into our program with really different levels and interests of tech, and some have a lot of technical expertise and some don't, but we expect there to be competency on the computer working with sound. But with that, I will
We actually have one question for Miles from someone online. What are your plans after studying sound art?
I think that question is really individual, and it sort of like depends on like the relationships you've built. Like there was a student last year who a mentor introduced them to like a pretty well-known artist, and now they're a studio assistant for them, which is a great job. It's like like it's very flexible, and they're able to go on residencies and then come back and work. My plans are undefined at the moment. There's some grants. There's some there's a lot of maybes, but like a lot of these things are not jobs you find on LinkedIn. So they just happen when they happen. But if you just keep applying to stuff, like you're meeting so many people and everyone's making it somehow, there's a way. It's just like you might not know what it is yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, just one thing to add. Last year's group, all three are still active as artists exhibiting and performing. One is an active sound designer for film as a money-making part of their thing, and another, like Miles said, is an assistant, I think, for Paul Pfeiffer. Another is very active as an artist. They're from Ireland and doing just had a solo show in Dublin. Year before that, student Chargeret had a solo exhibition at Artist Space the fall after graduating. Gladstone Butler is doing a PhD at Princeton. Mary's son is teaching sculpture at Webster University in St. Louis and has been active exhibiting all over the place. There are people either in the last 5 years, people employed as an assistant professor at EPMD at Berklee College of Music, another person teaching performance art at Stevens Institute, another person in a PhD at Brown University. And a lot of them active as artists in one form or another. Some people going on to graduate degrees in research. We have a student from a number of years ago who is active in AI and emotion research, and the AI and emotion thing came out of their thesis project from the sound art program and actually got them into their PhD in Germany. So it's a really interesting and pretty varied way to go. But we should move over to Alec Green.
Hello. So I came from a visual arts background. Thank you. And was very interested in sound in my studies and wanted to use the time in this program to explore sound through various mediums. I normally work in printed matter, sculpture, performance art, and film. And then I take all of my concepts come from something that is sonic that I then prove through another medium. So I'm trying to make a continuous conversation through all of these mediums, and also through workshops and connecting people with sound that may not have worked with it for the first time. Okay, and games. I love games. Yeah.
Questions for Alec? I have a question. What was it like? Was it a shock to your system to all of a sudden go from civilian life to get into the program where it's it's a sprint, because it's like creating work right away in the studio? How is that adjustment for you?
I'm from an art school background, and then between that degree and this one, I was working in various fields in the arts. But it was nice to come here and then be kind of allowed to spend all of my time on my own practice. It felt like I almost had too much time on my hands to know what to do with it all and what to research. I have a book of ideas that I've just been systematically going through and trying and seeing if it works or if it can be a piece that I enjoy. So it's kind of been overwhelming like that, and also being in this city is intense. But I think it's been so helpful to my practice to kind of understand where I want to go with it, or give myself that time to try and fail and see what happens.
I just have a quick question for both of you. I'm curious if you could just say a little bit about what it's been like for you to be in coursework. We talked a bunch about studio practice, but and you've mentioned taking courses other places, but what has that been like for your practice? Or you don't have to have an answer to
I was just okay. Well, first of all, professors are really flexible, and that's really nice, especially when you have deadlines for shows and whatnot. But I find that a lot of ideas or works are really drawing from the prompts or the skills that I'm getting in class. Seth is very good at making prompts.
torturous.
Yeah, and because you can just situate the coursework directly around your practice or what you think you might like to learn, or if you're I don't know, in this exhibition, I want to build this thing dealing with these topics. You can structure your semester to all move towards making a really good contextualized work.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
Yeah, I've also been finding that the coursework is just an extension of the research that I'm doing. And a lot of the professors here are people that I would read the books of regardless in my research. So being able to talk to them in real life and have them, or have a more intimate connection with them and bring things to them even outside of class time, can really form an amazing connection with the people that I would be doing my research on anyways.
Cool.
Yeah, cool. Any questions for the students online there? Julie?
We have two that are actually kind of related, so I'll give them both together. What are the sound programs students coming from different artistic backgrounds should be fluent in? And question to Mia, would you mind if you can slightly elaborate on the competency with technology and sound art that is required by Columbia? This was in regards to answering Miles earlier.
Yeah, okay. So in a second, I'm going to show you a bunch of slides of studios. And one of the common reactions to those slides is, oh my God, there's so much technology. I don't know the technology. I shouldn't go here. And I want to lead by saying that one of the most active areas of research for me at the center, as well as our graduate students, is equity and belonging in technical space design. We're thinking about what it means for people, particularly with marginalized backgrounds, but everyone, because we are in such a software world, to interact with hardware is very difficult and sometimes terrifying. And so we are building studios around the idea of like, I mean, if there's a intersectional, feminist, anti-racist way to build a studio, that's the goal. But the main thing is you should be able to walk in and use any piece of technology for any process within the first 10 minutes of walking in the room. If you've ever used a studio before, you know that that's not always the case. So in terms of software, we are non-denominational, which means we have people coming in with a variety of things, and we have people coming in with almost no things. So like when Mia was saying that there's like a basic competency with the computer and some audio software, I think what we're saying is that you should be able to like open up a sound file, edit it and process it and close it and use it in your
Super
pieces.
basic.
Yeah, and then like curiosity about the other stuff. You know, our students tend to be very self-startery, but when we say the word self-starter, it comes from like a kind of weirdly patriarchal way of saying like pioneer, like go out and figure it out on your own and like, you know, pull yourself up by the bootstraps thing. And we are like so against that I can't say it out loud enough. So all of our classes require zero prerequisites in terms of the technology people have access to, and we have parallel systems for ensuring that people who may come in with a weakness in one area are bolstered, and there are people with strengths in other areas, and I think Miles and Alec can speak to the fact that like my classes, we'll do programming, we'll do physics, we'll do audio engineering things, we'll do, but they're always in the context of a critical conceptualization of how those things exist within a power structure and a conceptual frame that enables the creation and generation of work, right?
I just want to make a
Yeah, please.
clarification. And it should be clear, we offer access to different technology, but it's in no way required to make sound art. And so it's about the art, it's about the ideas, it's about imagination, and we are not a tech program. There are tech programs out there, NYU, you know, a lot of them.
Yeah.
But we love to offer the access to it. So just so you know, it's not required either to apply. It's not required when you're in the program, but we offer it.
Yeah, and I'll also say, like, you're like, but wait, there's a computer music center, and the sound art students are in a computer music center. Isn't that technology? There are a lot of other computer music centers in the world. The Center for Computer Research and Music and Acoustics at Stanford, the Center for New Music and Auditory Technology at Berkeley, a bunch of others. They're like equal to us, but our approach is different. We start from creativity, and technology comes as an outgrowth of creative practice. We are disinterested in a kind of like corporate innovation model of technology. We're like, creative people have better ideas to make better and more interesting technology, and some of those things are very simple and don't warrant a paper, and some of those things end up being pretty innovative and warrant a paper, and we'll work with grad students to write the paper on that thing. So we are very not about technology. We're very about creativity. It's just that technology is kind of around and everywhere, and we'll train you to use it if you want it, and we'll not pressure you or think less of you if you decide you are uninterested in it entirely.
Great. Any more questions from
No, I think we should move on to Seth's presentation because
Sure.
it's getting a little late. We're about
Right.
10:42.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, thanks. Thank you, Alec.
Thanks. Thank you so much.
I will do this relatively quickly. In a second, a slide will appear on the screen. That's a picture of the RCA Mark II synthesizer.
Yeah, thanks for putting up the slideshow now.
People from everywhere on the planet, of every stripe, background, ethnicity, country, gender, have been welcomed at the center since the very beginning. The centers were organized around a studio model, which meant that you had access to rooms and access to help, and you could make anything that you wanted in those spaces. that means that there's a very, very long history of a lot of people. Halim El-Dab, who made the first piece of electronic music in Cairo, Egypt in 1948, his first stop in the U.S. was to be here for a number of years working on things in our studio. Wendy Carlos was a student here as an undergraduate and developed a lot of their work in the studio. Later on went on to do the music for The Shining and Tron and The Clockwork Orange and switched on Bach, the highest grossing electronic music record. But you see in the middle people from Japan and Israel and Romania and Korea, from all over the world coming in and doing things. And that has not stopped. We are in historic Prentice Hall. There are stories about it, like there's a stream running under it, and it was the home of the Manhattan Project. There was none of the nuclear stuff of the Manhattan Project in the building. We occupy the same 6,000 square feet as the original Columbia Princeton Electronic Music Center. Many of the little orange squares that you're seeing there are electronic music studios, but some of them are the studios of the sound artists. I'm not going to talk very much about the RCA Mark II synthesizer. It was installed by Bob Moog's advisor. Bob Moog was an undergraduate in the electrical engineering program here. This is a picture of the studio from the late 80s. It's kind of cool. I have tried to model the new version of the studio kind of around the same layout, but what we've done is made it so that you can our TAs are instructed to leave all of the synthesizers patched and running, and you can raise a fader, hear a synth, and then alter the patch and start from playing rather than starting from figuring it out. There's another sort of technical innovation, which is that there's a big red button that records everything immediately, and you don't have to patch in any cables, and it even records them when they're not, the faders aren't up on the machines. It records to a little thumb drive, and you can drop it on your hard drive and just walk out with sound files without ever touching a computer. It also goes to the computer, and you can process it and send it out and all of that fun stuff. There are a number of other rooms. Oh, I'm not going to show, I think this is a video. Is that a video? Oh yeah, there we go. I made a video showing you the room. Look at that. The thing in the middle is a Disklavier piano. It plays itself. Did that show on the screen? It did. Great. This is the other side of the room. It's an 8-channel Genelec system if you care about technology. Yeah, I said it was a Disklavier. That's not playing on the screen. Why is that not playing on the screen? Well, anyway, the piano plays itself. You've seen a piano play itself. Or maybe not. And you can imagine it. There's just no one at the piano and the keys are moving. There's a seminar room with very fancy speakers for critical listening. This room is designed to be flexible. You can take the tables away, fold the tables away, stack the chairs, get everything out of the way, reconfigure the room for doing things. This room is for teaching undergraduates, so we have everything from like a Buchla music easel and a TR-808 and a TB-303 drum machine to like, oh, sorry, you're totally correct. Yeah. It's the anxiety. I'm a terrible extrovert, or introvert rather, performing extroversion. So the studios are very easy to use. There's a fully featured recording studio. It's also done in a way that allows you to walk in, plug cables in and microphones and press record, and you're just up and going. We painted one wall purple because we figured it was softer and nicer. There are early plate reverb systems that allow you to do reverb. A big area is electronics and instrument building. We do workshops on circuit design for making sound producing circuits, but we also do lo-fi, duct tape, contact mic, hacking, opening up devices that exist already and modifying them. We don't care about technology. We just provide the tools to get you inside of it. Do a lot of work with digital fabrication. We've got 3D printers and Cricut machine, which is like has an X-Acto blade that can cut out stickers or copper tracing for touch plates and all of that kind of stuff. If you don't know what any of that is, it's fine. The Sound Art first-year studios have an open workshop that is just for the first-year students, and we empty it at the beginning of the year, and they put in what they want. So the group decides what that workshop will look like. This year, it's shelving and tables for working on things outside their studio, so they don't have to take up studio space with that. All the rooms, even though it's an old building, are covered in city quiet glass that are gas filled, which means the rooms are silent to the outside, which is something you wouldn't expect from a building when you look at it. We have a first order ambisonic spherical loudspeaker system. If you don't know what that means, it just is like you can stand in the middle and it feels like you're outside in the forest. Like we have the microphones that allow you to capture those things, and then the speakers that allow you to play them back. We do some work with wave field synthesis. Mia Masaoka has been active in that area, as have I. Yeah, so I'm going to stop there. I was going to show some research projects, but you can see them online. What I will say is that we are connected with the Barnard Design Studio at Barnard College, which has everything from bioplastic fabrication to sewing machines and sergers and embroidery machines, to 3D printers and laser cutters, and then also the Columbia Makerspace, which is considerably more expansive in its technological offerings, CNC machines and things like that. There's also a computational design center in the architecture school we're developing relationships with. And so, like, basically, if there's a thing you need to do, if you don't see it in the art program, there are places to find it elsewhere. So besides ceramics and bookbinding and printing and things like that, there's a ton of resources available to you if you decide to come here.
Thank you so much, Seth. And we hope you will all apply, because I think we can say with unflinchingly that this is the best sound art program in the world. And and Seth as well. I have visited many sound art programs in Spain, in Italy, in Germany where I've lived, in France where I've lived. So, this is amazing. It's an amazing program, and I can say that really confidently. That being said, we hope you will join us upstairs at 11 o'clock for snacks, coffee, and then stick around for the open studios that happen. So thank you so much for coming, both online and here in person. Thank you so much.